All right, guys, you're in for a treat today with the Elite Agent. Today's episode is going to be the real estate war games. We're about to be in an all-out war in real estate in 2022. So today I've got my boy David. Oh, did I lose you there, David?
I'm still here. I'm still with you.
Okay, cool. I had a little glitch in there, but I got my boy David Mehta. So me and David, we did another podcast. What, it feels like 6 months ago or something like that.
It feels like it's been almost a year. It could have been 6 months ago.
6 months, a year.
Time flies. You're flying. That's how fast it goes by. You're in the air and Captain Combs taking over the airspace.
That's exactly right, man. When I hop on the radio, sometimes I'm like, man, you get humbled real quick when you're trying to talk in a different language that you're not familiar with. So for those of you guys that don't know, I just got my pilot's license. That's what David's talking about. So I figure me and David's got a sprint to a listing appointment. If I can fly to Gatlinburg faster than he can drive out there, I may procure it before
he beat me. So we'll strip out a landing strip for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, listen, it's funny is I bought that land and I was like, man, I can put a landing strip on there. And then I realized like, hey, a landing strip, you're going to need about, at minimum 3,000 feet. And so it takes up a lot of space. So anyways, no landing strip in my house for me. So I'm really excited. We had a lot of people, the last time that had David on, we had a lot of people comment, and we dropped a lot of wisdom. And, today we're going to talk about, how to survive in this real estate market. Interest rates are up over 5%. First time, someone said since 2009. Do you see anything on there about that, David?
Yeah, rates are going to go up. You and I talked about this a little bit, and people are just learning what inflation is. My whole life I heard the word, and it was like an accepted thing because it was so controlled. And years ago I learned about what would happen if they ever kept the printing up, and it's a good problem when certain things are in control. But as you can see, real estate's gone just parabolic. You've got real estate up almost 30%.
Yeah.
So assets get the first benefit of inflation. So the rich get wealthier, as they say.
Yeah.
But then the assets that the, let's say average earner wants to acquire, it's out of their reach. And so they become, a little maybe disenfranchised with the process. And that's where the agent needs to step in and really be the leader in the process. If you're not leading the process, you will not survive this market. It is a war out here. That's what we're calling it, war games.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. I mean, half the time you're at war with yourself, dealing with the, battling yourself every single day. And I think that's what we're going to hit on today, guys, is, talking about your attitude, your work ethic, how you're going to go out and survive in this market, getting back to the basics. I know when David and I first started, David, we were both working at a Verizon, and I had already mentally clocked out. Hope my previous employers aren't watching this, but I'd already mentally clocked out, and I was like, I was banging the phones, and one day I was like, hey, David, I think I'm done.
I remember that. We talked about that briefly last time. That was, look, it was the right decision, and you got to follow your instinct, right? And you've done a good job with that. Now you're in the skies. Who knows where the next place is? You're going to Mars.
Listen, hopefully Mars real estate's pretty expensive, so I can afford to go up there. So I can reimburse it. So I want to hit on, you've crushed it, right? So, when people hear from me, they hear the team concept, and I always love to get a fresh approach, because, you have done it by yourself, right? And so there's times where doing it by yourself is really hard, and there's times where doing it by yourself, you have to check yourself. You got to go out and make sure that you're showing up every single day. And I've always applauded you for that, man. You've always put in the work. You've made sure it was happening, not taking any excuses, and just got shit done. You know what I mean? And so That's where I literally had a couple meetings this week, and I told my agents, you're gonna have to work harder in this market, and you're gonna have to go back to basics. Like, the stuff's not just gonna lay down for you like it was last year and the year before. So tell me,
Well,
on your side of that, tell me kind of what you're experiencing.
well, we talked briefly before and we touched on it, but this market is brutal. Last year was easy. I mean, it was easy from my perspective. I'm involved in other businesses, as you know. We talked about briefly off this. I don't really talk about that as much as I do real estate, but real estate is my bread and butter, and it's where I spend the majority of my daily routine. And last year, I was finding that deals were coming easier. Okay.
Sure.
And I based that off of the relationships I built and other systems in place, but it was still a little bit easier than even I was used to because I had a large control of listings. But when I looked out, the buyer's agents were starting to struggle. Now we're in 2022. Buyer's agents, I mean, it's like every deal that goes up, it's like you've got 20 offers or something. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so it's getting harder. I've noticed that I haven't nearly been as busy as I usually am the first quarter. I have so much business that I'm about to probably go into listings with some families that have been struggling with that decision. You have to understand that as an agent, to talk about this for a second, is that you're not in control of what a family is going to decide to do with their lives. The only thing you can do is stay in front of them and be a resource so that when they're ready, they only want to use you. That's the only job you have. It's not when, it's that they want to use you. When, they'll decide. So that's an important factor in this market, is staying in touch with your database, following up. Do you want to get into the components of what I think make a great agent? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So I talk about it a lot, and it's funny. Before we dive into that, I literally had this conversation with my team right before we started this, and we had a training today on listings. And the biggest fear with every seller right now is what? They're going to go without a home. They sell, or they have to pay at top dollar. And so, both those things, we debunk the myth of it's not possible, because the reality is it's a wash, right? Like, when you sell high and you buy high, who cares? It's washed. Like when everyone's like, oh, I can't pay, this house that used to be 400, it's now 500,000. I can't pay that. Dude, your house, it was worth 200,000, is now worth 300,000. So both you guys have this $100,000 inflated cost. It's air. It's not real.
That's true. That's a very good point. People are learning what money is. Okay, and you'll hear a lot about that over the next several years. But it's going to be a big problem. And I believe that if agents don't come to the reality, if you're watching this, whether you're with Jay or you're just somebody out there, there may be different perspectives, but if you don't come to the reality that this year is going to be absolutely brutal, it will be a war game. I'm not joking. I mean, you look out, the president just said there's going to be food shortages. Look, that's a food war. You've got World War III potentially in Ukraine. You've got inflation wars, information wars, political wars. Will Smith is having wars. I mean, everybody's in a war. Okay?
Bam. Yeah, I know, man. That's how buyers agents feel right now. They feel like Chris.
So we're out here. So come to the truth. It's brutal. It's not easy. You got your license. You want to be successful. Then it's time to get serious. So what makes a great agent? I'm gonna give you 4 things that I personally use and that I've seen in other agents. Okay, so like an example would be, if you build a skyscraper, right? I think a stick build can go to 6 stories. Is that right? If you were to build a stick build, it can't go. If you build a skyscraper with sticks, it's blowing over. You know that.
Yeah.
So they use steel. That's a component in a skyscraper, right? So it's the same with an agent, or let's say like a plane. You're into planes.
Yeah.
They don't make planes out of steel. It's aluminum and composite, because otherwise that thing won't fly. It'll just drop like a rock. So what components make a great agent? Number 1, top of the list, competency. Now, coachability and competency for me are the same thing, because you never stop learning, right? So you enter the market, you're a rookie, you're coachable, you're going to develop competency. That's the important thing. You have to be coachable to create a level of competency. Otherwise, you know it all. You don't need to learn anything. Great. Good luck. But if you're coachable, your competency will rise, and you'll see that. And then other things become easier to learn, like just using Jay as an example, he's a pilot. He didn't just walk in. There's other things that have helped him study and prepare. Because he's coachable, that became an easier objective to acquire, if that makes sense. So being coachable creates competency. Competency, though, is what people hire you for. You need to be competent in this business. Number two, and again, this is just as important, but a different aspect, a winner's attitude. Okay?
Yeah.
A winner's attitude. And I'm not saying a winning attitude, a winner's attitude. So every win is a big win, and every loss is an experience that goes into your competency that we just talked about for the next one. And that's the mindset, is that you can't really approach things as, well, I lost, maybe I should go do something else. You got to have a winner's attitude at all times, not just when it feels good, all of the time. Yeah. Number three, and we can go into these deeply if you want to. Number three would be work ethic. Now that goes without saying, but if I tell you to go out here and dig ditches, and you dig ditches, what really gets accomplished? You know, if you don't have a competency in the field and you don't have a winner's attitude, just out here working hard will not get you far. You might get something, but you won't get everything. So it's an element and a component, but it's not the only one. So you have to have those other three. And then last, and certainly not least, you never, ever give up. It's so important, because some of the best success I've had, I'm sure Jay would agree, is when everything's down, everything's against you. Even people that are close to you say, listen, it's stupid, don't do it, it's not worth it. But you have an instinct and you know that you're close. You never give up, and then you get the prize. And so all four of those, competency, attitude, work ethic, and never giving up. If you can, though, you have control over all of those things, by the way. This is not something that costs money. Control over all four of those. Inject that into your personality. And we'll talk about the activities that you use those for in a minute too. But did you have any questions, Jay, on those?
No. So I'm gonna bring we're gonna talk. This is the Mehta show for the next couple minutes. So I'm gonna talk about two things: your work ethic and never giving up. And I'm gonna relate that back to me. So you listed a house over on Indian Shadows a long time ago. You sold it. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 98% sure you ended up selling. I think the last name of the guy was Cunningham or something like that. Anyways, I had the listing before. I think probably Carl or someone had the listing prior to me, or someone.
Expired listings.
Huh?
There's expired listings, I'm sure.
Expired listings, dude, our bread and butter. And anyways, so I listed it for a while and never sold, right? And he goes back, I earned that guy's business because I called him and I called him. The work ethic was strong. Called him and called him and called him and called him and called him. Well, and I listed it. I finally got the listing. I listed it and listed it and listed it and listed it. Damn thing was on the market for a year. Talk about a different market, right? Been through the ups, been through the downs. This probably sat for over a year. And you know what? I gave up. I was like, fuck, man, this listing's never going to sell. And probably, that was several years ago. Half of that was probably ego. I was like, I don't want a listing that's not going to sell. Well, who goes up and picks up the listing after me? You did, because you had called them and called them and called them after, because it was expired there for a while as well. And you had it on the market for a year. But I'll be damned if I didn't look in the MLS a while back and I saw that it was sold under David Mehta. And I just looked back at that and what built our foundation, right? You can't have a skyscraper without a hell of a foundation. That's the one thing I'll add to that, is you have to have a great foundation. And I remember when you and I were going back, we both started 2016, 2017. And we built our business on our work ethic and a foundation, right? Like we knew what it was going to take. And I feel like, give me your thoughts on that. I feel like the real estate agents have gotten softer within the past few years. There's not.
I agree. I think, like I said, last year was easy. So if you roll into a market that's easy, you don't want it to be harder. But I would also say that those components I just talked about, if you don't embody those, like long term, you have to have those. If you look at any great businessman, woman, real estate agent, they've got those. So if you're missing one of those, then it's because it's been easy. It's a reflection of who you are, not the market. The market is the market, right? It's going to do what it's going to do. Agents getting soft may just be revealing the fact they always were soft. They didn't get soft. They were always soft. And now they have to get hard. Or, you know what?
Exposed.
Listen, it's a war out here. And I'm telling you, this is true. If you don't figure it out, it's not going to be Jay's fault. It's certainly not going to be my fault. I don't want that responsibility. God bless this man for giving you an opportunity. I wouldn't want to deal with it, but God bless him. But listen, here's the thing. The agents that complain and say it's hard, it's not easy, they're the ones that are not embodying one of those four components or none of them at all. Okay. So you have to get to that point. It's self-development. I will tell you though, the activity, very simple. You know, you and I both credit a lot of success to Gary Keller, even though I'm on a different brokerage than you are. But Gary Keller had some wise words when he said, what is the one thing, the focusing question, what is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? That's the question. In real estate, it's simple. It's lead generation. And then you have to follow up and show up. Those three things: lead gen, follow up, show up. So you're making contacts. If they're good leads, you can help them. You follow up, and then you show up to appointments, to closings. You have to be out. So if you can just do those things and embody those four components, look, the world is your oyster. Okay. It's a war out here and you'll be a warlord, or you know what? You could be the opposite of that. And I don't want to paint that picture for you. We don't want to do that on YouTube.
No. Well, let's talk about that, man. Let's talk about the foundation and setting it up. Let's talk, I've got new agents and I've got seasoned agents, and I sat down and talked with a mortgage company, two different mortgage scenarios. One of them, they told me that, or by proxy, I heard that the one Zoom call, they laid off 200 people. They said, hey, just like this, let's hop on a Zoom call. Great. Hey guys, as of right now, everyone that's on this Zoom call is terminated. Boom, your access is shut off. Like that was literally like within the last week or so that happened. There's one of our staff members, a neighbor or something like that. And then I was talking to another, and they're like, man, listen, this has been like the worst month that we've ever had in our business. And it's not because of work ethic. It's not because of, it's not because of not doing the activities or staff. They have more staff. They have more LOs, they're just dealing with the market. Right. And it is, that's what I think it is going to be an all-out war for those. And it's going to be like Darwin's theory, man. It's going to be survival of the fittest. If you're willing to buckle up and strap up, then you're going to be okay. But if not, man, I said it 2 or 3 times. It's going to be a painful year for you in the next, this year, maybe even going into next year. So
I believe from a foundation perspective, you're right. It's not the agent's fault that what's really going on, the pain that you're talking about. These companies, a lot of them don't understand. This is just because they were never taught how inflation impacts your business. Because as inflation impacts your business, when you take in money, if you don't have a treasury that's outpacing inflation, your company is suffocating, and that's going to affect your employees. You have to be able to, your production has to outpace inflation, and nobody can do that unless you understand what's going on and then develop a plan. And you and I can talk about that offline because it doesn't just involve real estate.
Sure.
But when you look at that and what's going on, a lot of companies, they are going to have to cut people, Jay. For them to survive, they're going to have to cut people. There's no other way around it. There's just not enough opportunity. So this goes back to what we talked about. You have to be autonomous as an agent, even if you're on a team. What are you doing to prevent that? The best thing an agent can do, if they didn't do anything, Jay, and just sat in their office, like I'm here. Most of the time when I'm here, okay, I'm not goofing off. I'm on the phones 4 or 5 hours a day. I'm making calls, I'm taking calls, I'm negotiating. I'm negotiating a deal in Kentucky. I don't have a license in Kentucky. You think I'm going to turn down money? No, I've got an agent that helps me out there. He's helping sell a little medical office building. Okay. Maryville, I'm doing another little commercial deal. I'm constantly on the phones. Yeah. That's foundation. It's not, oh, I don't want to do this. Let me go do something else. It's an excuse to not do the work. The foundation for most agents should be, whether you're on the phone or however your lead gen is, you need to be constantly making contact with property owners. And that's an endless supply of people. So that's foundation. As far as long-term, you need to be thinking not just this year, next year. I would say you need to be thinking a minimum of 3 years to 5 years in terms of strategy. But what you can't do is what we talked about. You can never give up. You have to figure out, how do I stay in this game? There's a war out here, right? How do I stay in and win this thing? You do not want to say, listen, it's too tough, I'll just re-enter the market when it's easy again. That's not the play.
Well, you're going to go through the cycle again, right? Like everyone, when they enter in the market, no one wants to do business with them because of obscurity. No one knows them. They don't have any credibility. They don't have, they don't have a reputation. They don't have street cred or anything like that. So you go out and do that. I mean, that is the problem, is we've got flooded with agents, right? 5,000, 6,000 real estate agents. 90% of them are coming in and coming out, but it's like it's I don't know. I don't understand the dream that's being sold. I mean, someone really needs to just get real with the dream that's being sold, but it's in and out. And the reality is, and what's wrong, like still to this day, I'm 6 years going on 7 years preaching to the choir of building that foundation. Because I don't know if I told you, but I was super frustrated when I got into the business. Like,
I remember it very well. You were.
Yeah.
But you found, listen, winners find a way. And that goes back to the second component, winner's attitude. You weren't going to quit. You were frustrated, but you figured it out. You partnered with some people that had some experience. And what did you do? You're coachable. So you built your competency, right? So you had the winner's attitude. You had your competency built through being coachable. This is the same stuff we're talking about. You never give up. So you could have quit and somebody would say, yeah, he gave it a shot. He gave it a shot. Now he's at McDonald's and he ain't flying planes, folks.
Why would he flying planes? Just so you know.
Different, like your whole life could be changed if you just were to look at those 4 components and apply them to this business. So foundation is the work, but it's the maintenance of your database. So I email people once a week. Without fail. Everybody in my database gets a weekly email. It's unique. It's not unique to them, but it's unique content. And I'll put a picture up about something that will make somebody think to click it, or at least they see my name. But you have to stay in front of these people. They're busy. They're in a war too, by the way, a different war. We're in real estate wars. They're in the same war you're in outside of real estate. Okay. Everybody's dealing with a lot. And the only thing you can be to a family in this market that isn't sure that they're ready to list is a resource, is somebody that's a support system, that's a guiding light. If you can't accept that and you're just looking to get a signature or rush somebody through a process they're not ready for, you'll turn them off. They won't want to work with you. So when the business does come, you want them to come to you. You just need to survive long enough for that to happen. And I believe you're going to get plenty of business this year, but I would not expect people to pretend that they're going to be millionaire rock star agents this year. It just may not be the time of season. So
for sure. Well, and there's so many people that pretend that they're doing better. I mean, quite frankly, even for us, I mean, we're at 100 and probably 120 transactions year to date pending and closed, but that's actually way behind of where we should be on what our goal was set from last year, right? Like we closed 42 transactions in March of 2021, right? And this year it's just 60-70% of that, so
I mean, I'm down for the year. I've only had 9 closings this year. Okay, 9 closings. I've got 2 closing, 1 this week and 1 next week. I would say I had 54 sides last year, but
it's a lot.
It's not going to be, but this year, I've got a lot of deals, larger deals that are pushed into May and June. They're not necessarily dealing with families. All of my family real estate deals that deal with the typical residential owner that's looking to sell and buy, I would tell you 80% of those that I'm in touch with. In fact, I ran into you. If you remember this a few weeks ago, I was on the way to a $1 million listing over there at Covered Bridge. You were at Weigel for me. That family is an example of what I'm talking about. I've got their business, but they're not ready to pull the trigger yet. And the reason why is what's going on. So it's just important that agents stay in touch with these people and don't think, well, because they didn't sign this week and they're not ready to put the market on tomorrow, go on the market tomorrow, that I need to go somewhere else. You need to stay in close proximity to everybody that knows you, likes you, and trusts you. That's very important, because when the business does roll back the other way, you want to be able to catch all of it. Does that make sense?
100%. So the last thing before we hop off here is, we both kind of hit that, building a foundation, having your pillars, right? So kind of goes hand in hand. You got to have a strong foundation, build the pillars so you can go up, right? And then, you grind for a long time, and then it becomes more easy. But real estate's never easy, in my opinion. I'm 1,400 transactions in, and still I experience something new every single day. But the reality is, so everyone that has had it easy, they're gonna have to go back to what it was like when it was hard. Walk me through what your day looked like, right? Because I'm going to share this with my team, share it with other teams, independent agents, all this. But what does a schedule look like, right? And I know mine, but what was your schedule looking like whenever you first started the business and you didn't have a full pipeline, right? Like,
That's a great question.
What were you doing to fill your pipeline?
Great question. Believe it or not, it hasn't changed a lot. I'm going to answer it detailed, but I will tell you, when I was saying I literally will sit here and have chat fest all day, I might be on the phone with somebody that I've built a relationship with, okay, years ago, and we're talking for 20 minutes. And he's like, David, I really, I probably do need to sell that little building over there in East Knoxville while the time's good. Let's do that. But we didn't have the conversation about that. That's just catching up. You understand? So you still need to think, when I'm telling you the day-to-day routine, it doesn't just mean cold call. It means all calls, okay? Because it's not just prospecting, it's staying in touch with people. So I would tell you, typically, depending upon the agent's ability, if they can do 3 hours, you need to do 3 hours. If you want to be in this business. So 9 to 12, I would always do my calls between that time frame, because people are more apt to communicate. They're not that busy yet, if you catch them, that is. And I find that if you can set your day up early, then any appointments that come out of that, any opportunities, maybe that afternoon, or you're scheduling them later in the week. But you need to keep 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. locked in for simply prospecting. And you need to do that every single day. If you don't want to do that, then you tell me a more efficient way to spend 3 hours in this business where you can connect with any property owner. I'm sure, Jay, you have different software that your guys use, your ladies and gentlemen, whoever you got over there now, whatever they are, right? They use all the software. But listen, you have to geo-map locations, call neighborhoods, introduce yourself. You're there to be a resource. You're not looking to list their property. That's not how you enter the conversation. But 9 to 12 is key. You need to block off that time. You're not going out for lunch. You're not driving half an hour to meet somebody for some ramen noodles and then eat for an hour, talk about nothing, drive another half hour back. That's 2 hours gone. So you can talk to somebody about, the Oscars. It's just not worth it. You need to be on the phone.
Did you see what Chris Rock had happen to him? Oh my God. Right. 4 hours later.
But that's the deal, right?
And so I love it, man. Thank you for that. I can't wait to share this with my team, because
it's the one thing. I mean, let's not complicate it. If even the most basic agent made calls, with half the effort of a skilled cold caller or whatever you want to say, the tonnage of that work would move them into opportunities. Do you understand? So it doesn't matter how good you are. Look, there's an agent you trained, Jake, and he's his own man. I don't want to take anything away from him, but you had a lot to do with his success, I'm sure. And the other day, he and I linked up a little off-market deal, and I'm very impressed with what he's doing. And I can tell where that came from. So there's a lot of people out here that are operating very professional off-market portfolio style listing deals that would blow you away. And it's simply just connecting with property owners, building a database of those owners, staying in touch, and moving those opportunities down the field.
Yeah. No.
Anything more complicated than that for people. They want to complicate it. Make it easy.
Well, and I agree. What complexity kills productivity. And I used to make all the agents go out and calculate what their value per hour is, right? You take, how many hours you work divided by your income. Well, okay, cool. Well, let's derive what produced the vast majority of income. Well, that was calls. And so, typically an agent would make in between $250 to $500 per hour prospecting. And the rest of it was, between $10 to $20 an hour worth of, so I'm like, if I'm an individual and I want to be successful and I see that I can make, $400 an hour by calling and reaching out to prospective, sellers or buyers, or, connecting them, being of service and being of value, like I'm going to go maximize and I'm going to do the highest profitability thing per hour because I want to be working really smart. And, now in my career, I want to work a whole lot smarter than harder. Right. But back then I was like, I'm going to do both. I'm going to grind out. So, no, man, listen, we need to do something like this in person, get together, maybe do a little workshop for all the agents, regardless of brokerages, to give back. I agree.
I think it's a service, right? I mean, I've been very fortunate. I will tell you, real estate has blessed me. And, last year was the biggest, year I've ever had. It wasn't just with real estate, as you and I talked about. There's other things I've got going on, but I'll never forget what put me on the map and what has helped me get here. It's this business. I love this business. I love the people. I'll never leave this. They'll have to listen. It's a war. They're going to have to get rid of me, Jay. I will not walk away.
Over David's dead body, guys. Over David's dead body.
Over my dead body. So love the business, and I think you're right. I think agents that have success need to get out there, and even if it doesn't benefit them financially, help other agents.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Give advice, and if it helps somebody, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm known within like the real estate community as the king of R&D. And, most people think of R&D as research and development. And for us, we call it rip off and duplicate. So I'm like, hey, if someone can give me some advice, regardless of where they're from,
it's all broke. Why are you going to fix it? Use it. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't reinvent the wheel. Right. So well, listen, it's great catching up with you. And like I said, try to keep up. It looks like everything's going well. Family's beautiful, growing, and you're flying the skies, my friend. So
I'm picking up a plane Friday.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, man.
I'm not afraid, Jay. It's part of the ball game. We'll be in the air.
You shouldn't be. So, a little fun fact before we exit this video: you're 1,000 times more likely to die in a car crash than you are in an airplane crash. So
that is true.
So, and there's not a million planes in the sky. So guys, listen, I appreciate it so much. Every time me and David get together, we're always trying to go out and give back to our community. I as well. I love it. Real estate's blessed me, my family, and so many other people. And I'm super grateful for the opportunity. David, I'm grateful to, do this again. I think we should do it on a monthly basis, not an annual basis.
Absolutely.
But listen, guys, comment, if y'all want us to do like a workshop and share and discuss some stuff, we'd love to. It's something that we're both passionate about. So David, my man, let's get a deal together soon enough. All right.
It's been great, Jay. Thanks again.
All right, man. I'll holler at you later. See you guys.
See you.